Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Hurley. I'm joined tonight by the Limerick Voices, Liam White, to discuss this weekend's, I was going to say Alliance Football League action, but obviously it is the start of the All Ireland Senior Football Championship this weekend. There is Alliance League action this weekend. There are two more hurling finals to get through, obviously between Offaly, Waterford and Tipperary and Cork, which we'll discuss later on, but we'll discuss the football first. But yeah, Liam, how have you been keeping over the last few days? Obviously, Offaly footballers are on a high after winning the league, going to the Leinster Championship in the next few weeks on a series high, coming up against either Meath or Carlow. We'll discuss Meath and Carlow in just a bit as well in the Leinster Football Championship. But the hurlers playing this weekend too. So yeah, I suppose not a bad few weeks as an Offaly fan.
No, thanks for having me on again, Matthew. It's been a while anyway. I was up at Croke Park last weekend, and I think it'd be fair to say that our game was, I'm not even speaking from a bias point of view, it was a better game than the Kerry-Mayo one. The Kerry-Mayo one was a very, very tough watch. Our one, I mean, look, the boys put in a huge shift. And look, Kildare had their good moments as well, probably hit a few too many wides that they'd look to rectify come the Leinster Championship campaign. But no, listen, the job that Mickey Hart and Declan Kelly have done is superb. And I was delighted to get out of there with. Listen, at the end of the day, you're up in Croke Park. You may as well be battling for a bit of silverware. So first time winning Division 3. It sets us up nicely, I suppose, going into the championship against either Carlow or Meath and away from home as well. So can't complain, and looking forward to getting into this episode.
Exactly, yeah. It's a long time coming, but the All Ireland Football Championship is coming up. And obviously, the evenings are really longer as well. It's probably the first time in a while I've done a podcast and it's bright outside, which is absolutely brilliant to see, no doubt about it. But we have to start with the weekend Gaelic games, obviously. And the only story and the only real story we have to start is Mick O'Dwyer. Obviously, condolences to Mick family and the whole Kerry GA community and Waterford GA as well on Mick passing. An absolute legend. In managerial circles, not just for Kerry, but also Kildare and Laois and Wicklow, where three of those Leinster counties, he brought up the standards in football there in those counties. Then obviously Clare in his last year in inter-county management in 2013. Obviously, he passed away at the age of 88. He won 4 All-Ireland medals as a player with Kerry, but it was in the dugout where he cemented Gaelic Games' legendary status. He led his home county to 8 All-Ireland titles, as well as 11 Munster titles and 3 league titles. He won provincial honours twice with Kildare and once with Laois before winning the Tommy Murphy Cup with Wicklow, and then finishing off a great inter-county managerial career with Clare in 2013. As he said in the Mick O'Dwyer documentary in RTE, I have no more to do. I did it all. I had great enjoyment out of it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Let's be honest, he's probably one of the greatest ever Gaelic Games managers, and in my opinion anyway, he's the greatest to ever grace the game. He's a legend of a football manager, not just for Kerry, where he gave the Kerry players. I watched an interview from Pat Spillane on RT before coming on here as well, and he was saying that Kerry were kind of underdogs in the 70s against Dublin, going to Heffo's army obviously against Dublin. And what Mick did, he didn't look at the opposition, he didn't look at what brilliant players Dublin had. He looked at each and every one of the Kerry players, and he just made them believe in themselves, which was the main thing about Mick. And they nearly won the 5 in a row, obviously stopped by your own Offaly side in 1982. But then again, he still won another 3 in a row with this great Kerry side as well. And I think a post, I think it was by the Loaf of Bread podcast earlier today, that Paddy O'Shea and Mick O'Dwyer will join in arms in heaven. Well, I don't know, will they join in arms in heaven, or maybe there'll be a few spots or whatever. But look, he was an absolutely legendary Gaelic football manager. Obviously, rest in peace, Mick O'Dwyer. Condolences to the O'Dwyer family and Waterford and Kerry GA, as I mentioned. And Liam, all we can say is top class inter-county manager, probably one of the greatest that we've ever seen, and we probably won't get the likes of him again.
I wouldn't even just say Irish sport. I would say sport in general. He's up there with your Sir Alex Fergusons, your Pep Guardiolas, your like these types of men who are just, they redefined a sport. They've inspired generations, and they've created memories that will last a lifetime. I have to say, I read Eamon Fitzmaurice's piece in the Irish Examiner earlier, and it was one of the best articles I've ever read. It was really touching to read, especially coming from obviously the heart, obviously as a Kerry man. yeah, no, I remember watching his documentary a couple of years ago. Like, I didn't know much about him. Obviously, wasn't born when he had all of his success with Kerry and obviously with Kildare, and like would have been very young when he had a success with Laois as well and Wicklow and all that. But just even going through his life story, he was a very interesting character outside of GAA as well. His father said, you can go racing anytime you want, but you might only get one chance to play for Kerry. Is a fantastic quote. He was going to go fishing after he retired from football, and then he got calls to go into management, and he went for it, and I think it was the right call in the end. 12 All Irelands over a playing and managerial career is nothing short, but incredible. Like, I believe 23 Munster titles. I know obviously Kerry are the most dominant team in Munster, but to have that at the end of your life is absolutely sensational. He's a legend of the game. He'll always have the people of Offaly's respect because of what he said in '82 as well, saying that when we were to be beaten, I'm glad it was Offaly that beat us. It just shows. I saw a clip earlier from balls.ie about when they lost the All Ireland final in 1998 with Kildare. He went straight into the dressing room afterwards, congratulated Galway, said it was brilliant for the west of Ireland as well. It just showed the class of the man. It just showed how much of a gentleman he was. His documentary was genuinely probably one of the best that RT have ever made. It was fantastic to watch. A bit emotional in a way as well at times when he'd mentioned, because of all the times he would have been screaming on the sideline or whatever, or shouting, that there was days when he wouldn't be able to speak at all, all that kind of stuff. But no, genuinely a great GA man. He's up there with the Brian Codys. He's up there with the Henry Shefflins, the Christy Rings, the Jim Gavins. These are the men that obviously Jim would have definitely looked to him as an inspiration for years to come. I was even listening to the Our Game podcast earlier. Michael Dignan was on it saying that he'd taken advice from him as well when he went in to be Meath manager in the past. So yeah, no, he's an inspirational figure, terrific man, has done so much for the game of Gaelic football, for GEA in general, to be fair to him. So look, condolences to him, to his family, friends, to his club, and to Kerry GEA. It's a very sad occasion, and I'd imagine there'll be a good few minute silences this weekend, particularly at the Laois Wexford games, etc. So dreadfully sad. But like I said, he was 88. He lived a long, happy life. He got to do what he wanted to do. I think didn't he say some quote that he'd if he had to die on the sideline, he would. That's the kind of man he was. You can only admire that sort of commitment to your profession. But he was a brilliant man, and we might never ever see the likes of him again, especially in Gaelic football terms. We'll never see the likes of him again.
Absolutely not. And what set him apart from many other managers, in my opinion, Mick, was like, you look at him going out of his comfort zone from Kerry, obviously winning all those All Irelands, winning 8 All Irelands is a magnificent achievement as a manager. But going to Kildare and kind of changing the standards and the outlook within that county, to go on ahead and win 2 Leinster titles in 1998 and 2000 as well. Coincidentally, that was Kildare's last ever Leinster Senior Football Championship. To win a Leinster Championship with Laois then in the early 2000s, he gave those players the belief what many other managers would never do in many ways. And that was probably what separated Mick from every other manager. You look at what he did with Wicklow even in the late 2000s. He got them to a draw against the likes of Armagh, who were All Ireland champions in 2002. We got them to a draw in 2011. He beat a down team in 2009, the qualifiers. I distinctly remember this. He beat a down team in the qualifiers that a year later would reach the All Ireland final, eventually lose the Cork, obviously. But that was the amount of belief that he would give the teams like the Wicklows, the Kildares, the Laois. Like that Wicklow team, yes, it had Leighton Glynn in it, and you had some brilliant players up and down the pitch, probably individual players. But what Mick did, he made them into a team, and a hard team to beat at that. They beat Kildare as well in Croke Park. I think that was Wicklow's first ever win in Croke Park, in the new version anyway, probably ever. So that was an exceptional achievement as well. But in your opinion, Lee, before we get on to the games, where would you rank Mick among the greatest managers in history? I'm counting now Gaelic football and hurling. So we're counting Brian Cody, Jim Gavin, Kevin Heffernan, all the great managers. Where would you rank Mick on that list?
I think just simply for the fact that he won 4 in a row with Kerry, and then eventually they lost the 5 in a row, but came back and won 3 in a row after that. And then, like you said, he goes along to the likes of Kildare, to Laois, wins them Leinster titles. Like you said with Wicklow, that's nearly the biggest achievement in a way. The Wicklow, then they win the Tommy, was it the Tommy, what's it called? The
Tommy Murphy Cup. It was the original kind of version of Taunton.
Yes. Like that's a terrific achievement, and beating, like you said, a downside, which in 2010 were reaching an All Ireland final. They were beating Kerry and they were beating Kildare and losing to Cork by a point. You know, like that's a terrific achievement. And I think kind of what you said there is what makes managers, in my opinion, stand out from others. It's a manager who doesn't look. You're going to obviously look at the best players on another team, but they're not your worry. Your worry is, what can I do with my bunch? And if you can get the best out of the bunch that you have, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, if you can get performances out of them, if you can inspire them, if they can keep showing up for you and be willing to die for you on the pitch, essentially, then, you know, I mean, look, he's going to be remembered forever as Mick, and, you know, that's an honor in itself, you know, that people are going to remember you by that. But, you know, I think just managers who set the standards of, first of all, they want to challenge themselves, like you said, going from not even like cozy, but like going from winning All Irelands constantly to then traveling up to Kildare, traveling to Laois, traveling to Wicklow, even going to Clare in 2013 to try and win more. He won in 29. I think he was 79, and he won a Division 5 league or something like that with another 14 team in his local club. You know, just terrific stuff like that, and it's a great character that you're losing there. You know, just a great community man. In terms of ranking, I think just alone for those achievements and the way he kind of changed the game, and like, I mean, if he'd have won the All Ireland with the likes of Kildare, or if he'd gone on to win an All Ireland with Laois, then, like, you know, there'd be nobody questioning it. You know, that people will be saying he is. For me, I would probably rank him just above Cody, just for that alone. Like, I think Cody, if he'd gone to another county, he might have done the same thing. You know, somewhere like just like in hurling terms, if he'd gone to maybe an Offaly, or if he'd gone to a Laois or gone to a Westmeath, he could have done something similar. But Mick went and proved it, and for me, he will go down as the best GA manager of all time for me, just above Cody. And certainly in terms of Gaelic football, look, like you said, the Mickey Harts of the world, the Jim Gavins, they've had terrific careers, but for me, nobody touches him.
No, he's just a one of a kind, obviously, an outstanding manager, Mick O'Dwyer, as well, and yeah, obviously condolences to the whole Kerry GA community, Waterford GA, obviously, and the whole O'Dwyer family on the passing of the great Mick O'Dwyer, yesterday, on Dealish. We will move on to the action now, and we'll move on into the All Ireland Senior Football Championship, and it is the first weekend of the Sunday game as well. So the first game live on the Sunday game this weekend on RT2. It's also live at BBC Two Northern Ireland. It is Donegal against Derry from Ballybuffet on Sunday at 2 p.m. We were discussing, I don't know, were you on my podcast discussing this game in the league, or was it Seamus, or was it Aaron? I'm not sure who it was a few weeks ago, but we were almost like, this game is a relegation dogfight or whatever. Donegal were going for a league final, but this game has ramped up another few levels in terms of in the All Ireland Championship now. And when you look at what happened last year, the way Derry were ambushed by Donegal, the way Owen Lynch was coming out of the goal, where everything seemed to go wrong for Derry that night in Celtic Park. Could we see a similar ambush here? Could Derry ambush Donegal? Do you give the Oak Leafers any hope here, or do you think Jim McGuinness' side will push over the line?
Well, I do fancy Donegal to go far this year. You know, that's without question. I fancied them before the league started, and I still fancy them now, regardless of how much, let's be honest, they did peter out in the league. You know, now, as we're all we're probably going to figure out this weekend whether this is part of Jim McGuinness's long-term strategy or not, and see if he's the real evil genius at the end of it all. But yeah, no, listen, Ulster is extremely competitive, and it always has been, regardless of what we thought of the state of the football being played up there during the 2010s, or what you got now is actually really good football up there now, which I'm really looking forward to. Like, it's the most competitive provincial championship, along with the Munster, I would say the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, that we have in the country. Like, any team on any given day could win it, and someone like Derry, despite how much of a poor league campaign they've had, I mean, 1 draw and 6 defeats, like it's a dreadful record, but at the same time, we've seen the last 2 All Ireland winners come from Division 2. You know, football's changing in a good way. You know, so for me, the Derry in the league, when they played against Donegal essentially got over the line. They did. Derry actually played a very good game that day, and I know the league isn't everything, But given how poor Derry were in the league, they will need to probably step up 1,000% again in order to try and get a result here, and especially away from home as well. So, look, I was even listening to Adam Moynihan earlier. He kind of referenced it that Derry are kind of still relying on some of the old guard over the last number of years. Like they're not really kind of relying on a lot of new, younger flesh of blood at the moment. I mean, look, Conor Glass was someone who they will look to. I mean, he was getting them over the line in games. He was kicking some unbelievable 2-pointers over the last couple of games, especially in the Armagh game. And what was it, the game they played before that? I can't think off the top of my head at the moment. But I'm trying to think, it wasn't Galway. It was
Mayo, I think it was.
Mayo, yes. So when you've got players like that, and look, you've Shane McGuigan, he needs to be given the ball. I think is his second yellow he got against Armagh, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Second, yeah, so he'll be fine for this weekend. Like you need to get him on the ball. You could even see it against Armagh. It was a dead game, but the moment Derry were somewhat competitive with him on the pitch, the moment he went off, all their momentum just went. They had no real focal point kind of up there to really target. I suppose, look, Lachlan Murray had a great game last month. Eaton and Conor Doherty were players who can link up so well off each other on the wings as well. They're going to need to put in massive shifts here as well. But they do have to be wary of the Donegal presence as well. You know, no need to go into the likes of Michael Murphy or, let's be honest, even Paddy McBrearty or any of these players. You know, they're just top class players, and like they're two of the best players to have ever played the game of football, let alone play for Donegal. But Oisin Gallen, Darragh Gael, Ryan McHugh, like Donegal have a fantastic side, and for anyone to take them down and not only deny them, I suppose, an Ulster success, but an All Ireland title as well, they'll have to play almost a perfect game. So Derry will, I suppose, have to be super on their game, which they are capable of doing. Like at the end of the day, they won the league last year, and despite having pretty much a torturous year last year, they still knocked the likes of Mayo out of the All Ireland on penalties. You know, took them to extra time in Castlebar. They only lost, as much as it was an absolutely dreadful game and an advertisement to change the rules in football, they only lost to Kerry by 5 points. You know, at the end of the day, like they could easily, like it takes 2 scores and you're in an All-Ireland semi-final, and then you're up against Armagh. And I know Armagh absolutely blitzed them in Ulster, but Croke Park, different ground, you just never know. So I do think Donegal will win this weekend. Look, I think Derry will struggle in good parts. I mean, I hope to God they don't play the game they did last year against them at home. I hope to God they don't do that, because otherwise it's just going to be a long afternoon and a long trip back for the Derry supporters. But no, listen, Ulster is super competitive. I'd give most of the teams in Ulster a fighting chance of winning it. And for Derry as well, the motivation after having a poor league campaign to take down one of the big dogs, essentially, in not just the All-Ireland series, but in Ulster as well, and to stop them from retaining Ulster again would be massive, massive motivation as well.
Exactly. So, and there is a few worrying stats about Derry. I don't want to burst the bubble or anything that Derry could prove to be a difficult opponent for Donegal. But you look at their scores in the league, Shane McGuigan and Conor Glass are the only 2 players that scored more than 13 points for them, which is quite a worry. They're 2 brilliant scorers, no doubt about it, but they're way too reliant on them. And there was a stat actually from Conor McKenna, not just wrong Conor McKenna from Westmeath, from County Westmeath. He actually said on Twitter, or X as it's called now, that, like, he said this stat about Westmeath as well, but since Derry lifted the trophy in the Alliance League final last year against Dublin, they've only won 1 game outright, and that was against Westmeath and Norway. Yeah. They haven't won any other game. So those 2 stats, you'd be worried about those if you're a Derry fan going to this weekend, because if you take another big beating this weekend against a Donegal team that are motoring kind of well, when you look at some of their league form under Jim McGuinness, it would be a worry if they got absolutely obliterated going into the All-Ireland group stage. Because, like, if we were to lose this game heavily, you could be going into the All-Ireland group stage staring down the barrel of possibly 3 defeats at the group stage, and that would be embarrassing from a Derry point of view.
Yeah, and I suppose you wouldn't put it past them the way they have been playing, especially this year at the moment as well. And yeah, no, look, I think to take another bad beating, and especially a bad beating in the first round of championship, because as people say, whatever about the league, everyone at the end of the year is going to remember the championship. You know, at the end of the year, Kerry fans will remember if they won the All Ireland, not if they won the league. You know, and I'd say the same for Galway, I'd probably say the same for the likes of Mayo and Dublin and all them. Like, they're not going to be worried at the end of the year about, oh, did we win the league? Their target is, and not even their province, they're thinking, did we win the All-Ireland? Did we get to the All-Ireland final minimum? Do you know? So, look, Derry cannot take another bad beat. And like you said, yeah, like even that win last year against Westmeath, they were fortunate to even get that win as well. You know, it was only a 4-point win, if memory serves me correct. So, like, yeah, no, they need to really go up a level this weekend. And they need to prove why they were this team over the last number of years that everyone was kind of raving on about. Like, they got to 2 All-Ireland semi-finals back-to-back. I would say probably more so against Galway in 2022. They might have regrets over maybe the following year against Kerry. Because the one against Galway, I mean, look, it was an atrocious game. Let's be fair about it. It was a very, very poor game of football, which I wasn't expecting. I thought it'd be a much better standard. But, like, they would have probably fancied themselves against Kerry in the final as well. Very much as so as Galway did. You know, Galway nearly took them down. So Derry would have absolutely had that same belief. And the momentum they had, they tops Division 2 as well. I know Dublin won Division 2, but Derry tops that group as well. You know, was it 2022, I believe? I think it was the year Dublin were down there with Derry. So, like, there is such talent in Derry. There is brilliant talent of footballers in Derry. We saw that last year with their minors as well, competing in the All-Ireland. So, like, they can't shift another bad performance. Like, if they come out of Donegal this weekend and it's a score something like, I don't know, 3-19 to 14 points or something around that, then, like you said, confidence is going to go. They're going to be drained almost immediately after one game. You're going to be chasing shadows as well with some of the runners that Donegal have as well, and some of the shooters as well. I mean, when you're trying to tackle down the likes of Michael Murphy, you may as well forget about it because he has the experience and the know-it-all. And the likes of Paddy McBrearty, you give him the ball, he's just going to score 9 times out of 10. So, yeah, no, they can't shift another bad performance this weekend, because if they do and they go into the All-Ireland series, and especially with some of the games that they could have to play in the group stage as well, then it could turn into a very, very long season for them.
Possibly so, yeah. And do you feel like Donegal? I think we're both predicting Donegal will win the game eventually.
Yeah.
But do you think Jim, you mentioned at the start of the discussion about this match as well. Do you think Jim genuinely has a plan up his sleeve? Or do you think Donegal are slipping kind of a bit? Because Seamus mentioned a point to me in the past few weeks saying that the Galway performance in particular was atrocious from the Donegal point of view. I'm still around the fence on what Jim was saying after the game, saying that they probably don't care about the league. They didn't want to make a league final. They don't want to be overworked before going into this game against Derry in a way. But what do you think about all that yourself, Liam? Do you think Donegal are genuinely slipping? Or do you think Jim has a plan up his sleeve?
I'm kind of sitting on the fence here, which is probably not what you want in terms of views or clicks or anything. But I can kind of see both your perspectives. Like, I agree with Seamus that it was a performance that, like, we were going into that game thinking this is going to be potentially a preview of what the league final is going to be and what could be the All-Ireland final. And after 15, 16, 17 minutes, it was 17 points to no score. Shane Walsh was absolutely, he was just bullying them. Matthew Tierney was bullying them, do you know? And I suppose, look, he mentioned about his comments kind of after the game. It's almost like a deflector, you know, to get people not talking about the performance, but more so just talking about, oh, we don't want to be in a league final. We don't care about the league. We're only worried about championship. But at the same time, like, in my opinion, if you're in the league or if you're in the championship, you have to try and go out and win every game. That's just the way it has to be. Or you have to at least show that you want to win the games. Do you know? Like, for me, I would not have been happy if I was paying money as a Donegal fan to have gone to Galway or to have watched their performance against Tyrone or see the performance against Mayo and just been like, oh, well, we only care about the championship, because you're thinking, well, why didn't you win those games? We could have easily won those. Well, look, Galway, there was the win that day, so maybe you could take that one away. But certainly the Tyrone and Mayo games, you'd be looking at thinking, we could have won those games. There's no reason why we shouldn't have won those games. You know, we're good enough, and we've had good momentum to start the league as well. But at the same time, I can also see your point of view of, like, listen, Jim, at the end of the day, is back in Donegal to win an All-Ireland. He'll have regrets about losing to Galway last year, especially by 2 points as well, very agonisingly, and seeing the way the All-Ireland final played out as well in comparison to Donegal beating Armagh in an Ulster final last year. So in a way, he might be thinking, look, we only want to win the All-Ireland. We only want to win Ulster, and championship is the main thing. So I can kind of see both your perspectives in a way. You know, I do think that he was brilliant at deflecting the conversation and kind of deflecting the performance of the team onto just, oh, what's the league format, or championship is too soon with the league finishing and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, look, at the end of the day, managers at the end of the year are going to be judged by their championship performances rather than their league performances. So, and listen, if he goes out this weekend and takes down Derry with minimal fuss, or just at least gets through to the next round, and I believe it's in Monaghan they have to play after that, then that's when the real big test will come out. So yeah, I suppose we'll have to see it the weekend, but I can see both your perspectives. It's an interesting take, to say the least.
The only way we'll find a definitive answer is watch the game this Sunday, but we'll have to see, obviously. But we are both predicting Donegal will go on and win this weekend against Derry. But Derry, the good news for them is, well, I don't know, is it good news? They'll still be in the Sam Maguire group stages no matter what happens. But I don't know what Derry fans feel about that. We'll move on to the Connacht Senior Football Championship now, and all these games are live on the new GA streaming platform, or is it? It's just a rebrand. It's GA Plus. It was just for those uninitiated. It was GA Go last year. Yeah. I said it. Mayo against Sligo in the Connacht Senior Football Championship in McHale Park on Sunday at 3:30. This is live on the brand new GA Plus. But is there hope that Sligo ambush Mayo here and win this game? Because if the thing is, though, if Sligo do beat Mayo, then at this present moment in time, it looks like my own county Cork would be the Tailteann Cup if Sligo were to do it this weekend. So do you give Sligo any hope of overturning Mayo and Castlebar?
Well, Mayo are that bonkers that they could just do anything, couldn't they? It's Mayo are just that county that 1 minute they're probably literally about to win the All Ireland, the next minute they're on the verge of going out in the first round qualifiers. They're just that county. I do think Mayo will win this weekend, especially having home advantage. I think if it was in Markievicz Park, then you might give Sligo a bit of a chance, because at the end of the day, Sligo last year, we saw us last year, they should have beaten Galway. That Galway should not have won that game last year, and like they admitted it last year themselves. They shouldn't have won that game. They got out of jail. They weren't on it that day. Sligo were hungrier in that game. They were much better, played much better football. They were ambitious. And that's kind of what I like about Sligo. They are an ambitious team. They do want to play on the front foot. Even with the old rules last year, they weren't reliant on just passing the ball backwards or, sticking 12, 13, 14 men behind the ball. They were always looking to go forward. And look, they had a disastrous start to the league. There's no point saying otherwise. I only got to see them in person once, and it was against us in the opening round. And it's a small bit worried going into it, because I legit thought that Sligo would have, if not gone up, I certainly think they would have been done a lot better than they did. I thought they would have been maybe the big direct rivals to Kildare, maybe alongside maybe Clare or something like that, and then maybe we could have been fourth or maybe fifth or something like that. I suppose maybe that expectation that some people had on them, given the success they've had over the last number of years with the under-20s, Coollara Strandhill, the way they performed in the All Ireland series this year, winning the Connacht title, maybe it got to them a small bit. And look, at the end of the day, this is a team that has expectations now. They got to the Tailteann Cup semi-final last year, probably were very unlucky not to win it. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did get to a Tailteann Cup final this year, or if they won it. They are a very, very good team. They have terrific players like Patrick O'Connor, up full forward, is a terrific player. They've Spillane in there as well, who he's big, and look, his shooting against us the day I saw him was not great, but it was also a tough day for football in a way. It was very wet, and there was January conditions, and it was the opening day, so you can only read so much into it, I suppose. But no, look, Mayo are off the back of we said it already, a very, very lackluster league final, a very, very poor league final against Kerry. Kind of looked like both teams were just more worried about avoiding injury rather than actually wanting to win it in a way, which I was kind of disappointed by. I thought maybe when they got their goal, they might have tried to kick on a bit because there was only a couple of points in it, but they never did. So I suppose they might want to try and put that right this weekend. It is championship at the end of the day. And like I said, winning the league for Mayo is great, but at the end of the day, they want to win in All Ireland. They're sick of not winning it. Let's be honest about it. And they haven't won Connacht for a couple of years as well. So they'll certainly want to try and put that to right as well. But no, I can say as well, I'm not the biggest fan of Mayo having to play this game a week after a league final either. I think look, I am a fan of the way the split season is, I will be honest. I think it is actually a good format. I don't think we're ever going to get back to a September All-Ireland final ever again. I'm not against that. But at the same time, I think they could have given certainly the likes of Roscommon, the likes of Limerick, the likes of Mayo, a bit more time to just regroup. Regardless if they'd won last week or lost, they could have just given them a bit more time. But no, I still think Mayo will be able to just have too much for Sligo. They'll certainly put it up to them. They'll certainly put up a bit of a fight, but I could just see Mayo clinching it like maybe 6 or 7, maybe 8 points, or it could get to like a stage where there's maybe like still 6 points in it. Mayo might get a goal and then they might just kick on from there. And look, Mayo have a good bit of momentum as well. They have a good brand of youth players coming along as well from the minor panels. The under-20 team is going well at the moment in Connacht. So yeah, no, I do expect Mayo to win this game, but I certainly think Sligo will put it up to them. They certainly won't fear them, that's for sure. I certainly think this will be the closest of the games in Connacht in comparison to New York, Galway, and London, Roscommon.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that statement as well. Denise, friend of the show, obviously says as well, I could see Sligo putting up a good bash to Mayo after they were deflated after the league final performance, saying that Mayo will find the fire they're ready to redeem themselves. And yeah, in terms of the league final last weekend, the fact that Mayo were so flat, do you think that will be a positive for them in a way? Because they didn't exceed much energy against Kerry. If they exceed way more than they did against Kerry in this game against Sligo, there is potential that Mayo could run asunder on them. But there's the other flip side of the coin as well. Mayo don't score as many 2-pointers as many other big sides do. So maybe Sligo can actually catch them on the hop in many ways. Like Sligo has some excellent kickers like Niall Murphy, Patrick O'Connor, Pat Spillane Jr., of course. They have some excellent kickers of the ball. So could that be an avenue for Sligo to cause a shock?
Like if you were thinking off the top of your head at the moment, who's Mayo's real 2-pointers? I mean, you think of Kerry. I mean, you'd have Shawnee O'Shea, who would, David Clifford. Probably, if you gave him the chance, Paddy Clifford would be as well. I mean, if Paul Ganey had a chance, he definitely would be. Galway, you have Finnerty, you have Tierney, Comer, Walsh. For Mayo, you're kind of thinking O'Donoghue and maybe Matty Ruane, and then kind of after that, you're kind of stuck, because even last week, watching them, it was like watching kind of the old rules in a way. You wouldn't think there was a 2-point arc around there. It was a lot of sideways passing, a lot of trying to kind of work the ball in, slowing the play down. It's almost like Mayo were in front and they were trying to just keep the ball for 10 minutes straight. It was kind of frustrating at times to watch. You can even hear sometimes the crowd kind of groaning when they were getting into positions to shoot, and then they were just kept hand passing it back. So that is something that they probably will worry about a small bit going into the championship. And especially when you kind of look at when you compare some of the tallies that some of the other teams have been getting in this newly formatted championship, sport essentially as well. Like Mayo scored 12 points against Tyrone. They scored 16 against Galway. They scored 117 against Armagh. I think it was a 116, 117, or could have been 115 against Dublin. I just can't remember off the top of my head. So, and then 112 in a league final. So they're not putting up massive amounts of scores, which is a small bit of a worry. You're thinking even just 1 or 2 2-pointers in a game could be crucial, because that's essentially what even won us the league final last weekend. We got 2 2-pointers. Like you need, if you have them now, you have it now. You may as well use it to your advantage. So I think this is going to be the game now where they're just going to have to find out, right, in a way, not disrespect to Sligo, but they probably will beat Sligo. So you're thinking, right, if we have the chances or if we have the game killed off, start taking shots, start taking 2-pointers, work them into those positions and see who do we have other than your O'Donoghue's, other than your Matty Ruane's, who can actually take them. Because I can't sit here and say I think Aidan O'Shea would be able to do it anymore. So I'm like...
Jordan Flynn, maybe?
Jordan Flynn, maybe. But that, again, you're going to have to get him the ball and see. Because he wasn't doing it enough last weekend himself. So, and I believe he was taken off at one stage because, McStay was just getting frustrated with the likes of him and a few others as well. So yeah, McLaughlin as well. So, I think they're going to have to find out this weekend, because at the end of the day, with this let's be honest, this new brand of sport, this kind of basketball type sport, you need to be finding out who's your 2-pointers, who's your go-to man, and who can you trust in these situations.
Exactly. So I think we're both agreed that Mayo will win the game, but there is a lot to improve on in terms of the rest of the championship. Denise is another comment in here. Paddy O'Durcan is likely to feature in this game. Huge positive for the captain to be back in the team. So So yeah, hopefully Paddy Gurkin does make a comeback for Mayo, and we shall see if he does this weekend. The comment to delete there, it's deleted now. So moving on to the other two Connacht games, they're on GA Plus. The first one on GA Plus is New York against Galway in Gaelic Park in New York, in the Bronx on Sunday at 8 p.m. Irish time. It's on 3 p.m. American time. This is the sort of game, I know Galway were impressive in the league, and especially Shane Walsh kicking them 2-pointers was absolutely exceptional. Robbie Finnerty, obviously, Damien Comer back in the team. There's a lot of positives for Galway, and I think before even discussing this game, we're probably thinking Galway will win the game. For New York, though, it's one of those games that you're thinking you're going into the unknown, because you're honestly thinking, before they announce the team, I'd say Friday, possibly Thursday, we don't know who's in the New York team definitively. So it's kind of like guessing what New York can offer this weekend. But I think in terms of the results, we're both predicting the Tribesmen to get over the line.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's a fabulous occasion as always for New York to get games played in Gaelic Park, and especially against a side like Galway. I mean, you're inviting the All Ireland finalists, you're inviting the Connacht champions. You know, one of the best sides in the country, some of the best players in the country over. And listen, I mean, I'd say in a way, some of the Connacht teams are just hoping every year, is it us? Is it us? Is it us? So we can just get a cheeky trip to New York at that expense, or London for a weekend or something. But yeah, no, look, it goes without saying, it'd be a fabulous occasion for them. And I know they had that great win over Leitrim a couple of years ago, and they've invited Mayo over the years and Roscommon, etc. But I mean, there's no point in beating around the bush. I mean, if the likes of Donegal and the likes of Dublin last year are not beating Galway, then I don't think New York's going to be beating them. But it's a great occasion for them. Like you said, they're going into the unknown. They may as well enjoy the occasion. They've nothing to lose, essentially. They can go out and express themselves. They can go out and try and show what they're all about. And listen, nobody's expecting New York to win this game. You know, like, let's not kid ourselves here. But I mean, you say that at the same time, they went to O'Moore Park, was it last year or the year before? And I mean, they put it up to Laois. They fairly nearly sent Laois out of the championship. So we've seen
very close against Carlow as well a couple of years ago.
They were. So, and even we played them a couple of years ago in the Tailteann Cup, and like they had a couple of decent players in their team as well. So yeah, no, listen, it'll be interesting to watch. And look, I certainly don't think they'll be enough to take down Galway, but it's a great occasion for them as always. And yeah, they can just go out and express themselves. But yeah, Galway should win this fairly comfortably.
Yeah, I think so as well. And it'll be very, very interesting to see. I think the 2-pointer will be almost easier in New York because the weather will be absolutely sublime over there. Which is going to be, that's actually going to be bad news for New York, because you have Shane Walsh on the pitch, you have Robert Finnerty on the pitch, you have Damien Comer, you have Matthew Tierney, you have Paul Conroy midfield. This isn't going to be good for New York. But look, obviously, as you said there, it's a great opportunity for them, possibly to get a result or a performance under their belt before the Tailteann Cup kicks off. They won't be in Tailteann Cup action, I don't think, till June. So again, that's a long way away for a game there. It's kind of hard to get games from a New York point of view, but hopefully they do themselves proud against Galway. One exile to another. This exile obviously competed the Alliance Football League this year, Division 4 London against Roscommon. This game is in Royce, live on GA Plus again on Saturday at 2:30. I know Roscommon were pretty poor in the Division 2 final last weekend, but surely I know they're in bad form and they've won one game out of their last 5, I think it is. Surely they beat London. No disrespect. They surely will beat London, won't they, Liam?
Yeah, no, same as the New York and Galway game. I think now it'd be a major shock if London did take down Roscommon. And look, you got to give credit to London. They had, by their standards, they had a very good league campaign, picked up 2 wins. And listen, they weren't even too bad in some of their games as well. So they're certainly going somewhere, anyways. And of course, hammered us last year, which we won't go into in the Tailteann Cup. So they're certainly like making strides and they're going in the right direction. But look, let's be fair. Roscommon are a division. They're going to be a Division 1 side next year. They're a team that'll be looking to beat the likes of Galway, the likes of Mayo, and win a Connacht title. They were in an All Ireland quarterfinal last year. They knocked Tyrone out last year, who were All Ireland champions in 2021. So I don't think Burke's going to be having many sleepless nights ahead of this one. I think they'll be fine. And look, again, it's a great occasion for London. I can still remember them getting to the Connacht final a number of years ago, before obviously Mayo, the great Mayo team that they had back then, absolutely destroyed them. But it was a great time for them. So look, again, it's a great experience for them getting to play a top class team and a Division 1 team as well. But yeah, Roscommon will have too much for this.
Remember the time when they played in Croke Park against Cavan as well. That was some occasion. I was at that game. It was a very good occasion for the players' families and all that. But yeah, I think Roscommon will go on and win this game as well, going down their trip to Ruislip. Moving down to the Munster Senior Football Championship and moving into the first game of the TUS Gaelic grounds between Limerick and Cork on Saturday at 6 p.m. I am going to this game, obviously, for my sins. Well, I'm not a Cork football fan so much anymore. I'm part of the media for Cork football though, with the Southern Star, obviously. And yeah, this game between Limerick and Cork. Limerick were in the Division 4 final last weekend, showed some bright sparks. But this could go either one or two ways. Limerick could harness the confidence from last weekend and go ahead and show Cork in this one. Or they'll be burnt out and Cork will hammer them. So which way do you think it's going to go, Liam, or do you think it'll be somewhere in between?
Well, all I'd say is it's a huge game for both counties. For Limerick, after winning the Division 4 final, it's a chance to push on and to prove that they can compete with teams that are in the higher grades ahead of Division 3 next year. And especially when you look at some of the teams coming down as well, the likes of Down and Westmeath, they certainly had their moments in Division 2 this year. So it's a big chance for them. They've gone up, but would still be I'd say Limerick would still be a small bit disappointed with how they performed in one or two of their league games, the likes of Wicklow and Wexford at home especially. And even the league final, they certainly were let off the hook a few times with Josh Ryan pulling off some massive saves, I have to say. Wexford really kind of left their shooting boots at home last week. If they can get the likes of James Naughton on the ball, Darryl Shikru, Peter Nash firing, then they can absolutely cause some big issues for Cork, especially given how, look, without beating around the bush, I mean, you've been to all the Cork games. They've defended very poorly this season, especially trying to keep goals out. I think I was counting it up there through the tallies you put up on your own page there. I think it was 9 goals and 131 points in 7 games. From a Cork standard, I can imagine from you seeing that as well, you're not too pleased seeing that, and especially when you look at the likes of James Naughton, who's scoring 4-12 in one game, albeit it was against Waterford, which not the best opposition with all due respect, but at the same time, he's a player that can do that. He's by far and wide Limerick's most effective player, most consistent player. So Cork, for me, just essentially have to avoid defeat at all costs. They cannot lose this. I don't see Cork getting past Kerry in the semi-final, but there'll be nobody begrudging them for that, to the same extent if they were to go out in the Munster quarterfinals. I think for John Cleary, it could be a long way back if they were to go out in the Munster quarterfinals, and especially if they were to lose to Limerick, and if Sligo were to pull off a shock against Mayo to go down to the Tailteann Cup that way, I think would be devastating for him. And I don't see him maybe staying on after this season, I'll be honest, unless he was to deliver the Munster title or get to an All Ireland, maybe quarterfinal, semi-final or something like that. But they'll need the likes of Mark Cronin and Chris Oak-Jones, Brian Hurley to show the same type of form they have already this season. They do need to fix their defense. 9 goals and 131 points, especially 9 goals in 7 games. They'll desperately want to fix that. So they certainly can't be as open in this game as they have been in a certain amount of games so far, anyways. And I suppose with the hurling on Sunday, there might not be the biggest crowd from Cork going to this game. I can imagine, anyways. I suppose given how many people left after the Kilkenny hurling game. Before the Roscommon football game, that's probably a fair assessment. But no, they need to try and give them something this weekend to look forward to. And certainly, if you can get over Limerick and have a semi-final against Kerry, that's going to bring a big crowd. And I suppose, look, you just never know.
Exactly. And you were mentioning 9 goals there, but an important stat as well. In the last 2 games against Louth and Cavan, 0 goals conceded.
That is true.
So you have to say, to be fair to the defence, they have improved over the last few weeks. And what I will say about the cornerbacks, in particular, Sean Brady, who's 22 years of age, and Neil Lorden, 23. Those 2 lads have been thrown in the deep end because of Kevin Flahoy's got to Australia, Tom Clancy's retired. There was injuries to the likes of Sean Powter, who's seen as defensive player. Luke Vaughan was injured as well, Sean Meehan. Those 2 lads in particular have been thrown into the deep end. Lorden has played all the minutes for Cork in the 7 games as well. He hasn't come off once. And they could have easily, buckled after the first 5 games. Difficult defensive record there. But they've turned their season around. They've turned their performances around, and you have to give them a lot of credit in fairness, both of them defenders. And in fairness, Daniel O'Malley, who's the most experienced player, he's a young player himself, but probably the most experienced player in the full back line. He's marshalling them very well as well. And there is a few players coming back into the team, like Ian Maguire's getting full fitness back in midfield, like Luke Fahey seems to be coming back into full fitness. We'll hope in the next few weeks. Sean Meehan and Sean Powder are coming back into training, according to Micheál O'Crone as well, which is a good sign. So yeah, there are some positives for Cork, but obviously the positivity might go down the drain if they lose to Limerick this weekend. Obviously, with the greatest of respect to them, I just think Cork should get over the line in this game as well. A few comments in here. Patrick Casey saying, shame this game isn't on TV on the Rebels. Yeah, look, that's a discussion for another day with the GA Plus stuff, obviously. And Denise was saying an interesting comment in here. If Cork play their cards right, I think they have a huge chance of winning Munster. Kerry haven't impressed me apart from the Galway game. The thing is, they've won the league, Denise. I don't know. But then again, what I will say, Kerry did win the league in 2020, and they played a defensive player in Brino Biogli or Ronan Buckley at wing forward in preparation for the Cork game. In the Cork game, they played Brino Biogli at wing forward. They ended up losing the game because of the Mark Keane goal. In the game last weekend, I noticed Graham O'Sullivan was playing wing forward.
Yeah.
Do you sense deja vu, Liam?
I can tell you're hoping and praying for deja vu anyway. another late goal in the last minute of extra time or something would do very nicely for you in a few weeks' time. I can still remember that. Geez, that's 5 years ago. That's mental to me. I suppose, look, when you look at it from that point of view, but then there's also the argument that every time Jack O'Connor's won the league with Kerry, they've gone on to win the All Ireland. So we'll have to wait and see which side of the coin it falls on this time. But I suppose, look, they are right. I mean, Kerry weren't marvellous in the league. I mean, they threw the game against Dublin away in shocking fashion. They lost at home to Donegal. They were kind of lackluster against Mayo away from home. Put in a great performance away to Galway. Got to give them credit for that. Absolutely destroyed Armagh at home as well. But yeah, they've not been overly impressive so far this year. But again, it could be Jack O'Connor's Jim McGuinness type thing. Only this time they got to a league final, and I suppose unlike Donegal, they have a bit of time to settle before. I think Kerry kind of went for it a small bit more, just because they knew they didn't have a game this weekend than Mayo, who did. But it'll be interesting to see. And look, you are right. Look, they haven't conceded a goal in the last two games, Cork, which is a credit to them, and especially against Louth, who, like, I mean, I saw briefly their match against Meath while I was waiting for the Offaly Clare game. Like, they looked very, very good and very, very good in attack. So, and I actually thought Louth were going to win that game before it started. I just thought the way kind of Cork were going after the Roscommon performance in particular. I know you, like, obviously kind of mentioned a few times how they kind of won the midfield battle against Monaghan. It was just an attack where Monaghan absolutely kind of just took over. But no, look, there have been improvements, but they got to keep that going, and John Cleary's got to keep that going, because, like I said, if they revert back to type, and if they revert back to the way they were in games against, like, Monaghan in the defence, and against Roscommon, against Westmeath as well, then it could make the game a lot closer than what I'd say most Cork people will want.
Exactly. So, but we're both predicting a Cork win against Limerick this weekend, and hopefully a good game as well. Limerick winning the league title. Hopefully there'll be a bit of positivity about Limerick, because we want a good game of football. The other Munster quarterfinal is between Tipperary and Waterford in Semple Stadium, Thurles, on Saturday at 6 p.m. Waterford beat Tipperary at this stage last year, but the game wasn't on Farmer Fields. Just a disclaimer there. Team Tipperary will pull them back at Waterford. I think they beat them during the league as well, so they might have the upper hand. There was a few bright sparks for Tipperary in the league, tailed off towards the end, but I think at home Tipperary should have enough for Waterford. What do you think?
Well, I think it's incredible how far back Tipperary have gone in football, considering that they were Munster champions just, again, 5 years ago now. Like, in a situation when you're not sure now where their next victory is going to come from, essentially. And I think it was I'll be honest, I think it was a very disappointing league campaign for them. Like, they were a Division 3 side 2 years ago, and now they're kind of slummeting, in my opinion, in Division 4. Like, I mean, losing at home to the likes of London and Wicklow, and especially very badly as well, is never, I know it's essentially in a way a dead game, but it's never ever a good look. they kind of are a shadow of what they were kind of 5-10 years ago when they did have the likes of Conor Sweeney, Conal Kennedy, Michael Quinlivan, Robbie Kiley. My old PE teacher, Philip Austin, actually, he was my old PE teacher. Got a great round of applause and was very popular with the boys when he came on and scored against Genie Munster final. Sorry about that. But he was very popular in school the next day. Actually, I don't even know if he came in the next day or not, which is fair enough. But yeah, like they were winning Munster title. They were reaching 2 All Ireland semi-finals in a couple of years. Now they're just not at that same level. But as poor as they have been over the past couple of years, I still think, I know they did lose to Waterford last year, but they did beat them in the league this year, kind of comfortably enough as well. And look, I just don't think Waterford will have the quality again this time to do it around. They had a good year last year, Waterford, to be fair to them in comparison to other years, and they'll certainly go for it. But in my opinion, Tipperary, they should have enough to get over the line here. I think it would be another major step back for Tipperary if they were to lose this one. They certainly, and especially on the side of the draw that they're all on as well, in the Munster Championship. Like I think Clare will reach the Munster final against like the likes of either yourselves or Kerry or Limerick. You never know. But yeah, for Tipperary, it's a must win this weekend. I don't see Waterford causing them too many problems. But at the same time, like I said, Waterford bet them last year, so maybe lightning strikes twice.
Possibly so. We'll have to see this weekend. But yeah, I'd say Tipperary should have enough, especially at home. And it's just a sad kind of indictment about Tipperary football that it's gone this far, and hopefully the slump doesn't continue for them. Look at the final province this weekend. It is Leinster. The first game of the Leinster Senior Football Championship this weekend, it is Wexford against Laois in Chadwick's Wexford Park on Saturday at 6 p.m. Both sides are on the same side of the draw, where the Leinster finalists from that side will be in the Sam Maguire Cup despite their league position. It includes the likes of Laois, Kildare, Westmeath, and these two sides as well. The thing is with Wexford, though, after a league final last weekend, and you mentioned it briefly at the start as well, is that going to bring them down, in your opinion? And are Laois going to win the game as a result? Because they Wexford players, after losing a Division 4 final like that last kick of the game, they could be demoralised. So it's a tough one for Wexford to come back from, but should be a tight one. Hopefully it'll be a tight game.
Yeah, I think this will be a game that'll be interesting from the context of, like you mentioned, the side of the draw that these two sides do find themselves on. And like obviously by that, I mean that they aren't on Dublin's side, essentially. That's the side of the draw you don't want to be on in Leinster, let's be honest, because like at the moment, it doesn't look like anyone's taking down Dublin, but if you can at least get to a Leinster final, then it's a massive boost. So really, this is a huge opportunity for both sides. And for me, I think Wexford might actually pull off a big win here. Look, Laois have had some good wins in the league. Sligo at home was the big standout one. But they did fall short more so in terms of, I would say, performances than anything else. Obviously, look, they had bad results, but when you look at the likes of the Kildare game, how they performed, and you look at the scoreline, was justified. The Offaly game, I don't think the result was justified. Like we had them fairly comfortably bet, with 10, 15, 20 minutes to go, and they got a couple of points towards the end. They threw the game against Fermanagh, albeit it was a dead rubber, but they still, like, you'd think going up to, was it in Brewster Park? I can't remember, but going up there and getting a win is never simple, and they could have done with it going into the championship, and they couldn't do that. The Clare result would have certainly been one that would have hurt, considering it essentially ended their push for promotion as well. So for me, Wexford, they gained promotion in very convincing fashion. I mean, they won 7 out of 7, and I firmly believe that after losing out in the league final there last Sunday, and especially with the chances that they lost as well, the chances that they missed in that game as well, that they'll be gunning to put that behind them. And they'll also have some home advantage, which is an added bonus. They did lose some players before their clash with Limerick last weekend as well, which was tough for them through injury. But I still think that they'll have no issues this weekend with Laois. I expect it to be a close enough battle, but I think Wexford will just have enough to get over the line.
It's a sort of game I'd actually want Wexford to win, because like to signify that Wexford football is on the way back. But you know what? I think Laois could win this game simply because of the Division 4 final last weekend. That's not a Wexford issue. It's not a Limerick issue. It's a GA issue. I don't know why the league finals aren't separated from the championship. It's boggers beliefs, really. But yeah, I think Lee should have enough because of that. That unfortunate thing that happened to Wexford in the last few weeks or so. But look at the other two Leinster games starting off. This would Meath against Carlow in Partalton on Sunday at 3 p.m. I know Meath are without Jordan Morris. He's injured for this game. I don't know what the situation is with Matthew Costello. Joe McMahon obviously leaving as well. Martin Corey obviously leaving the panel with no notice really as well, which is going to hurt the likes of Robbie Brennan and his management team, no doubt about it. But Carlow, look at their things that happen behind the scenes. I know Joe Murphy's come in as manager now instead of Shane Curran, but both sides have some things going on behind the scenes which is not pleasant. You would expect me to win the game despite all that, but it's kind of a weird game when you look at what both sides have been going through going into the championship.
It's set up so poetically that the two of them are having such issues behind the scenes. Actually, I can't imagine that either one of them are too happy ahead of this encounter with both panels kind of just being stripped of a manager just weeks away from the start. Well, like backroom staff and manager at the start of a championship. Like, look, Meath's situation is bad. McMahon and Corey leaving is not ideal, and you'd wonder how bad something must be for two coaches to leave in a matter of days. But for Carlow, it's just a completely different kettle of fish. Like their issues are better known, and like you said, they've been aired. Current steps down, and like what was it? It was citing player-related issues. I mean, the players hit back. Mikey Bambrick spoke to the Irish Independent during the week, and he said it wasn't for the national view of us. It was for the people of Carlow. Lads come up to me and ask me what's the story with what went on. We just want to get the truth and the facts out there of what happened for us as players, because when things like this are getting discussed, it's not fair on us at the time. They want to go out there and get that clear. We didn't want to make it anything direct. We don't want to make any accusations. We just want to get on with our side so everyone knew what was going on. So certainly dramatic to say the least. But looking away from all of that to the actual football itself, I suppose, look, Meath really should have enough to get over the line here. They should. It's a team which almost made it up to Division 1 versus a team which was average, essentially, in Division. Like, they had the definition of an average Division 4 season: 3 wins, 1 draw, and 3 defeats. Like, how much more average can you get? So, I actually didn't even realize Jordan Morris was injured. It completely went over my head. But I still think even with him out, they should have enough. And they had some good performances in the league, including the wins over Cavan and Roscommon. But they did also kind of falter in games like Louth, games like Cork, Monaghan. But those are teams that are a level above Carlow. Like, let's call a spade here. And also having home advantage will be huge for them. The likes of Owen Frayne as well. He's fit this weekend, I believe. I think, is he?
I think he is, yeah.
Yeah. So, look, there'll be players that they'll be looking forward to steer them forward this year. I am impressed. I've been impressed with Morris. I know you just mentioned he is injured for this weekend, but he's a player I've been massively impressed with, especially this season. I was watching bits of him in the Sigerson Cup as well. I think he has great skill. He's deadly accurate. So, look, I think even without him, Meath should have enough to reach a Leinster quarter final at the expense of Carlow. I think given the situations behind the scenes as well, I just think with the way Carlow's situation is compared to Meath, I think it could be a very, very long and rough afternoon for Carlow, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so as well. I probably think Meath will go on and win this game as well. But the questions for Meath will be the eventual next game against Offaly in the quarterfinal. That's where we'll see this Meath team. But I think Carlow, it looks like it's going to be. I know Joe Murphy has done well with Naas in the club championship, but it seems like it's going to be a difficult year for Carlow. Don't know about that. The last Leinster preliminary round game and the last football championship game of week 1, Longford against Wicklow. This is on Glen Brothers Pierce Park on Sunday at 3:30. And the winner of this, I won't beat around the bush. The winner of this plays Dublin in the quarterfinal. So it's one of those situations in the preliminary quarterfinal where do you actually not perform to your highest standard and don't win the game to avoid getting a beating off Dublin, or do you go ahead and say let's have a lash off Dublin? But it's a difficult one to judge. But look at the two sides' trajectories in the league in particular and the last few seasons. You would have to back Wicklow, but then again, Matthew Carey and Oran Kenny have done well for Longford, so you never know.
Yeah, I think you'd have to back Wicklow, even with some of the club football teams they've had over the last couple of years as well. They have some terrific footballers in their county. And yeah, like you said, it's kind of sad in a way that it's kind of this kind of situation where you're just thinking, I suppose in a way it's sort of similar, in a way to maybe to less extent on Cork side, because they'll always have a team out to believe that they will beat Kerry, but kind of like that in that you're going out and you're saying, right, well, if we win, we get Dublin, which, I mean, let's not beat around the bush. You're going to get hammered by them regardless of where it is. But then if you lose this game, then you can just start looking forward to the Tailteann Cup and start, progressing from there. So yeah, it is sort of a difficult one. But look, as I say, you may as well go out to win the game. You may as well go out and just have a lash at Dublin as well, see what you're like, see what the level is like up there as well, and just try and showcase your best as the best possibilities as you can. Longford had a dreadful league campaign. Let's not kid ourselves here. Wicklow, we're probably looking back and they might have some regrets over the way the league campaign ended, especially with drawing with Limerick. I think they probably should have won that game in the end, to be honest with you. So yeah, I expect Wicklow to have just about enough for Longford this weekend. I don't think Longford will trouble Wicklow too much. But yeah, like you said, it is kind of a sad situation when like your reward is essentially being thrown straight out to the dogs, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I probably predict Wicklow to go on and win this game as well. But it's a difficult situation for both sides. So that is the football championship, but there are two more games, and that is the end of the Alliance Hurling League. And starting off with the big one in the doubleheader in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, Cork against Tipperary at 4 p.m. live on TG Car this Sunday. This has the makings of a brilliant tie, Liam. And you look at the fact that it's sold out in Super Valley Páirc Uí Chaoimh this Sunday. Tip on the rise a bit as well. Munster Championship just around the corner. I know it's only a league final, but Tip haven't won it since 2008. Cork haven't won it since 1998. This is a big game. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a huge battle, and unlike the Division 1 football final, I don't see the hurling one falling short of expected standards, quality, energy, and overall drive for success. Because like you said, Cork are desperate to win a first league title in the 21st century. Tip will want to show that the league form that they've had so far has been justified, and to a degree, maybe even if they don't win it, they can at least perform good enough to show that this is a new Tipperary in comparison to what we've seen over the last kind of number of years, a very stagnant Tipperary. So for them to win this game, they're going to have to, I suppose, get a few things right. First of all, I suppose drowning out the noise. I mean, I think it was Eddie Brennan during the week said it's going to be like going to Galatasaray, in Turkey. It's going to be mainly Cork supporters. Obviously, look, you'll have your Waterford and Offaly supporters, and Tip will try and bring their crowd. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a Cork-filled stadium, and we know how much Cork love to go to their games, and we know how much noise they bring to games as well. So I think drowning out the noise, keeping that. I think if Tipperary can keep that middle spine of Downies, Fitzgibbons, O'Mahony's, and in particular, if you can keep Shane Barrett quiet, no silly fouls, because of the accuracy of both Horgan and Dalton, and even Fitzgibbon to an extent as well, winning the long poke outs, stopping the run off the ball, pressing Cork to the extent where they can't just waltz past you like they did against Galway and Clare. They need to get Darren McCarthy, they need to get Jake Morris, they need to get Alan Tynan on the ball, especially McCarthy. I've seen him even in their under-20 clash. I didn't get to watch much of it against Cork the other night, but in their game against Limerick, he was the only real player that stood out for Tip that night. In kind of a surprise result, I thought Tip would have had too much for Limerick, but he was the only one that stood out. He was the only one that was kind of pushing to try and win that game. He showed his quality on the night. Some of the scores he was getting, and certainly from long range as well, he's a nightmare for any defender. So, and he's someone who can absolutely cause major problems to the Cork full backline. Because yes, listen, Niall O'Leary's had an absolutely brilliant league campaign. Sean O'Donoghue, who was captain last year. But there can still be a team where if they're not careful and switched on for 70 minutes, we saw it in instances last year, like the two Clare games. I mean, they conceded 3 against Offaly, 3 against Limerick. So, they do have to be careful. They do need to be alert for 70 minutes. I would be someone who would love to see Micheál Mullen start at wing-back as well. I firmly believe he has so much to offer at wing-back in terms of speed. His ability to hold on to the ball is superb. His ability to just pick out a pass as well, marvelously. So, but it would also be very harsh to leave out the likes of Cormac O'Brien, who's had a terrific league campaign as well, especially against Galway. I thought he was absolutely excellent. I think Diarmuid Healy could be someone who you could be looking at as well. He played fierce well against Kilkenny and Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well. But obviously, look, I mean, Ethan Toomey's done well the last couple of games. I mean, Shamie Harnedy is just Shamie Harnedy at the end of the day. Kieran Joyce, I feel, needs to have a huge game as well. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing his battle with Garrod O'Connor. I've been very impressed with him in the league, in the league, and for the UL Fitzgibbon winning team as well. So, no, it has the makings of a terrific game. I think it will be, unlike the hurling. I think both teams are going to absolutely go for it. I think both teams will leave it all out there. And like you said, I think both teams are just crying out for success, especially Cork, because like I said it to you a while back, I think this year's All Ireland final, as we speak, will be Limerick and Cork. And if Cork are to put out a real statement, especially going to Clare in a couple of weeks' time for the opening round of Munster, then to pick up a league title, pick up a bit of silverware at the start of the season, will not only give Pat Ryan a chance to also breathe as well, but also gives him a sense of, right, we have that duck out of the way. Now let's try and end Limerick's hunt for 7 in a row, and let's progress forward and try and get Liam McCarthy back for the first time since 2005.
Exactly so, and like Seamus's podcast last week, in terms of the Alliance Football League finals, we'll go team by team and look at their scores and stats. So we'll start off with the Rebels, Cork, obviously, and starting off in their journey to the final. They beat Wexford first day out in Chadwick's Wexford Park by 221 to 12 points. Drew against Limerick in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, 116 apiece in the game that was not going to be shown, obviously, but TG Carr to the rescue that night. They lost to Tipperary, obviously, which could have been a damaging defeat, 222 to 121. Then they got back up on the horse and beat Kilkenny, 122 to 216. Obviously, Dermot Healy, as Liam mentioned there, had an amazing night that evening. Then the last 2 games, they scored 10 goals in 2 games. Firstly, against Clare in Ennis, 620 to 23 points. No, that's not a typo, lads. That actually happened. That was absolutely incredible from Cork, that performance. And then beating Galway by 4 goals and 22 points to 22 points, where Patrick Horgan broke the record in the Alliance Hurling League scores stakes ahead of Eddie Kerr. They've scored 15 goals and 122 points. That's an average of 319 a game. And then conceded 5 goals and 111 points. That's only an average of 118 per game. So very, very impressive stats from a Cork point of view there. Look at the scores. There's a lot of scores here in the Cork team. Darragh Fitzgibbon, top of the list there with 1 goal and 27 points. Patrick Horgan there with 1 goal and 25. Declan Dalton at 3 goals and 13 points. Brian Hayes at 5-7. Obviously, Brian Hayes, unfortunately, will be injured for this league final. Wishing Brian all the best. Shane Barrett with 211. Dermot Healy with 1-6. Ethan Toomey with 7 points. And the other player that'll be out for this game, Patrick Power, has 1-4. Across 2 games, the first 2 games, which is even more impressive. Tim O'Mahony with 1-4, Brian Roche 3 points, and you could see the scores there along the line for Cork. A lot of 2s and a lot of 1s there as well. But look at those stats, Liam. I think you have to look at the last 2 games there. 6 goals against Clare and 4 goals against Galway. Like, this goal scoring form for Cork at the moment, how many do you think they'll score this weekend? And another question as well, how crucial is it for Tipperary to stop those goal chances?
Well, if you can stop the goal chances, then you have a great opportunity of winning, because, like you said, 10 goals in the last 2 games, and the way they've conducted the goals as well, they've just essentially ran through their defences as well. I mean, in particular against Clare, like, I've never seen Clare's defence so open. Like, there may as well have just been a big gap in the middle. It may as well have been like soccer, where you have the 2 centre-backs and you have a small bit of a gap, rather than having someone there to protect you, And it was sort of similar with Galway as well. Like, I mean, Darragh Fitzgibbon was just able to walk past him at his disposal. Tim O'Mahony was able to do it. Shane Kingston was able to pick him out. I think it was for the 4th goal, just able to pick him out with ease. So if Tipperary can stop that, if they can just stop that threat from Cork, because look, Brian Hayes is a massive miss. And is Alan Connolly fit for this weekend? Or
he is, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's another, like, if you could stop him, like, especially a full pelt as well, like, he's a big, huge man. So if you could stop him as well, then you're going a long way. But I think if I was to guess now, I think Cork might get maybe 2 goals. I could see this being something like a 2-24 to maybe 2-20, something like that for Cork. I could just see them grinding it out towards the end. I could see it being very, very competitive. It could be like a 2-point game with coming down the home stretch, but Cork might just maybe get a second goal, might just kill the game off and see it out. But no, listen, I would give Tipperary a chance. I absolutely would. Listen, they're here on merits. They've had a fantastic league campaign. They've beaten Cork already, so they have that bit of experience there. But obviously, we know what Cork did to them last year in down in Thurles in the championship. So no, it has the makings of a terrific final. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be down at it, so I'm looking forward to seeing it in person. And I suppose I have a girlfriend from Cork, so I'll have to support them at the weekend, and friends down there, and yourself and a few others. So, and I don't think we're Offaly aren't too fond of Tipperary, so I suppose there's that side as well. But no, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a cracking battle, and I think Cork will just come out maybe by 3, 4, 5 points, maybe.
We'll have to see, but we'll look at Tipperary's road to the final as well. They beat Galway at a scoreline of 3 goals and 25 points to 216. They beat Wexford at a scoreline of 122 to 19 points. Those 2 games were probably expecting enough Tipperary wins, and we were thinking, when's the acid test going to come? We came against Limerick, and to be fair, they only lost by 4 points. They lost the game, but only narrowly. 30 points to 123. Limerick were outstanding that day, to be fair. They did beat Cork, a statement result there, as Liam mentioned there, 222 to 121. And then against Kilkenny, I know Kilkenny were reduced to 12 men that day in a crazy set of events, but Tipperary still beat them in Nolan Park, 225 to 119, and then beat Clare at a 22 points to 118 scoreline. They scored an average of 222 per game, and overall 9 goals and 139 points, and conceded an average of 120 per game. That's 5 goals and 123 points on an overall spectrum. Looking at their scores, there's a lot of scores here. Overall, Tipperary had 25 different scores in the league, which is absolutely outstanding. Darren McCarthy, 2 goals and 44 points at the top. Jake Morrison second with 1 goal and 12 points. Then you have Jason Ford at 13 points. Garrett O'Connor on 1-7. Dylan Walsh at 2-4. Willie Connors on 9 points. Craig Morgan on 1-4. Shawnee Keneally with 1-3. Alan Tynan, Sam O'Farrell, and Ronan Maher and Owen Connolly all at 5 points. Ocean O'Donoghue at 1-2. And then there's a lot of scores across the list for Tipperary. But look at those kind of lists there, Liam. Look at the list of scores for Tipperary as well. But look at their defence as well. Look at the certain games. They've only conceded, in terms of points, no, not goals, they've only conceded more than 20 points in 2 games against Cork and Limerick, the top 2 sides arguably in the country. Who has been more impressive, in your opinion, their attack or defence? Because you look at the attack, the amount of different scores there. Then the defensive line, they haven't conceded that much in the league either.
I think considering how poor they were in the defence last year, I'd probably have to say their defence, because we know the good attacking players that they do have. You know, your McCarthy's, your O'Connors, your Morrises, etc. And I'm a big fan of Morris as well. So they certainly have a lot of top class players in that perspective. But for me, just given how poor their defence was last year, you know, conceding 430 at home to Cork, 227 away to Limerick. I mean, they should not have won down in Waterford, or they shouldn't have gotten the draw down in Waterford. And yeah, I mean, they were very lackluster on the last day against Clare. I think that was a big thing that Liam Cahill had to fix this year. And I think for the moment, he certainly has. Obviously, that will be fully tested more in the upcoming championship. But I certainly think for the moment, their defence, for me, has improved massively. And they have a lot of good players. I mean, when you have Ronan Maher as your centre-back as well, terrific player. You've your Sam O'Farrell's in there who can drop back as well. Your Craig Morgan, Brian O'Mara's. They have some terrific players in there. So I think for the moment, their defence has probably impressed me the most, just given how poor they were last year. But certainly taking nothing away from their attack. I mean, they have some terrific players in there.
Exactly. So, and I'm probably going to go for a Cork win as well. But you think Cork will win by, 6 points?
I think probably 4 or 5 points, maybe 3 points at a stretch or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting game, but yeah, I think Cork should get over the line and win this game by about, I'd say 3-4 points. I think should be the margin, but Tipperary will definitely do themselves proud. But look at the final hurling game and the final hurling league final of the year. It is Offaly against Waterford in Super Valley Park. He gave 145 in CG Carr as part of a big double header, obviously. And you lost to Waterford a few weeks ago. Obviously, the dead rubber game for yourselves, but you beat Dublin as well, which was a positive. And he beat Carlow, or he drew against Carlow. Waterford actually lost. That's kind of a weird set of events. Carlow didn't lose to any of the 2 finalists. But how are you feeling going into this game as an Offaly man yourself? Are you confident coming into this game against Waterford?
I think considering 5 years ago we were playing Christy Ring, and 4 years ago we were playing Christy Ring, and we were playing Division 2 hurling a couple of years ago, I'll go into any game now confident, to be honest with you. But no, listen, I've been delighted with the way we've performed in the league this year. Obviously, look, the the game the first day. The result was a poor one, and look, it was, I suppose, it kind of, looking back now, you can put it down to, look, it was the opening round. We were getting lads back, etc. We've had a lot of injuries back then, still have a lot of injuries now, so you could put it down to that. But since then, I mean, I think the main aim at the start of the year was, right, stay in Division 1B minimum, get the first 3 games either won or get into the situation like we did, have 2 wins on the board and a draw, and kind of go from there. And then the win against Dublin just exceeded expectations. Then you're like, right, okay, we're in a promotion hunt here, so that's good. For us, we're delighted to be going up to Division 1A. And I suppose, look, we're going down this weekend. Look, the main aim for us is Dublin on the 19th of April. There's no point saying otherwise. If you said to me right now, we'll lose this weekend but beat Dublin in 2 weeks, then we'd absolutely snap your hand off for that. And we do have the under-20s playing on Tuesday night against Galway as well. So, like, that's a massive fixture as well. But no, I'll go into this game absolutely confident that we can put in a performance. We put in a performance down in Waterford a couple of weeks ago. And obviously, look, we had James Mahon's red card, which I won't go into again because I probably nearly got poor Seamus cancelled, I think, for some of the things I was saying on it. So I won't do the same here. But yeah, no, it's probably, I think in a way it's not a bad thing in a way, because look, just speaking from like the under-20s perspective, he can tog out for them on Tuesday evening, and not be overloaded with playing Sunday and Tuesday. But then you have the situation of Donald Shirley, and Dan Ravenhill, some of these players, Rory Kelly could be travelling, Liam Hoare is in the panel, Brecon Kavanagh, and all these players. So it's kind of a struggle for them having to maybe play Sunday, or at least tog on Sunday, and then go playing again Tuesday in Galway. So, but no, I'd give us a chance. Absolutely. We put up a good battle against them the last day. Even with 14 men, like there was one stage we were winning in the second half, we were drawing. We kind of ran out of legs towards the end. Obviously, look, we do have our own injury problems at the moment. Turgainen pulled up last week, which is a shame again for him. Terrific player, would be built for somewhere like Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but he won't be available to us this weekend. Adam Screeney, there's just no timeline on when he's coming back. Nobody knows when he's coming back at the moment. So he certainly won't be there this weekend anyways. And yeah, a few other, just obviously James Mahon suspended. So we're kind of coming down to the bare bones in a way of picking players, but at the same time, we've had a good league campaign. And look, it's kind of a free shot as well. Obviously, the lads will want to win a piece of silverware. It's going to be difficult to take out a very good Waterford side. I mean, when you have the likes of Desi Hutchinson in your team, you have Stephen Bennett. I know Austin Gleeson is not talking for this game, but Tyke Burke was back the last day. Billy Nolan played very well in the goals the last day as well. Probably should have been sent off, but I won't go into that. Won't mention that. But no, pulled off a very good save from Brian Dignan's penalty. So yeah, no, I think Waterford might just have enough over us. I feel like Waterford would be more gunning to win this maybe in a way than we will, to an extent, just because like our main aim was to maybe either stay up or just get promoted, whereas Waterford would be aiming to win this thing out and out, and especially with the Munster Championship they have coming up, trying to impose themselves and trying to, I suppose, do something that they've never done, get out of the round robin series in Munster. I think they'll want to, get a piece of silverware under their belt and kind of go from there. But no, I think it'll be a close enough game. It'll certainly be a better encounter than what it was a couple of weeks ago with the weather as well. So no, I'm expecting a close battle. I think Waterford might just edge it towards the end, but at the end of the day, if we were to perform well, put in a good performance and get ourselves in some way, shape or form, kind of match ready and sharp for Dublin in a couple of weeks' time, then I don't think there'll be any Offaly fan kind of walking away disappointed. I would have been, as much as I'm a hurling man before a football man, I'd have actually been more inclined to see us win the football last weekend than I would be this weekend, I'll be honest with you.
Interesting. We'll look at stats. So we'll look at Offaly first of all, obviously in their journey to the final, and starting off with that draw, obviously to Carlow, 19 points to 116. Then they beat Laois on a scoreline of 124 to 115, and that started a run of 4 games on the trot where Offaly won. They beat Antrim, David Fitz's Antrim at this stage, 226 to 17 points. Then that win we were mentioning earlier on against Dublin in Croke Park, 27 points to 1 goal and 23 points. The win against Westmeath, then 1 goal and 22 points to 19 points. That sealed their place in the league final. And obviously then the Waterford game, which they lost 22 points to 111, albeit Offaly had nothing to play for, and they were down to 14 men for most of the game. Looking at Offaly's scores compared to the likes of Tipperary, Cork, and I'll show with Waterford later, just very few number scores for Offaly. I don't know, is that a concern for Liam? We'll talk about that in a sec. Brian Doyle with 1 goal and 56 points. Killian Sampson, who's had an impressive league campaign, 2 goals and 11 points. Dan Ravenhill, 113. David Nally, 1-9. Oisin Kelly with 11 points. Charlie Mitchell with 11 points. Dan Burke up there with 9 points as well. There's a player of players on 2 and 1 as well. Does that concern you, Liam? Looking at the number of scores there, the fact that Brian Doyle and Killian Sampson in particular has scored the bulk of it?
In a way, it kind of does, because we do have the attacking players to, kind of rip teams apart. When you do look at some of the players that we have started in the league campaign so far, but at the same time, look, we did have a game against Westmeath where the likes of Brian Dignan kind of just got most of our scores in that game, especially in the first half. And I suppose again against Laois, out of 124, I think Dignan got 13 points. So there's been a couple of games there where maybe 2 games are at best where Dignan's kind of done most of the scoring. But then, in other games, like Charlie Mitchell started off the league really, really well and was coming into the game against Waterford as well before he had to be unfortunately taken off. Killian Sampson's always a great man to get a couple of scores, especially the last couple of games as well. Against Waterford, he was moved back to midfield, which I think, is a good position for him. Like he's a very dynamic type of player. He can play wing back, he can play wing forward, midfield, centre forward, centre back, etc. But no, he's really adding to his game a lot with from a scoring tally over the last couple of years as well, which is a big positive for us. Charlie Mitchell will be a threat no matter when in a game. Even if he's having a bad game, you'd still be thinking he is someone who could just pull a goal out of nowhere or pull a couple of points kind of out of nowhere. Dan Burke, I suppose we're not relying on him to get a load of scores. We kind of relying on him to do a lot of ball work off the ball and tracking back, winning the ball back, kind of shimmying around players, trying to feed the ball into the forwards. Oisin Kelly started doing a lot of great work off the ball more so than kind of getting scores. Against Dublin, he got his 5 points. I believe did he get 4 points? I think against Westmeath, off the top of my head, I can't remember. But in a lot of the other games, he was doing a lot of great work off the ball, catching. Like every time the ball was coming on top of him, you were just sure he was going to catch it. And he was doing a lot of feeding as well. So from when you kind of break it down in some perspectives, it doesn't worry me too much because we are feeding the ball a lot to Dignan as well. And look, we're expecting him to get the scores at the moment as well, with the likes of Adam Screeney out, Owen Cahill's been out as well. And David Nally started off the league and he's kind of been put back to the bench at the moment. Hopefully we can get to see a few minutes of him this weekend because he is a terrific player in my opinion. But yeah, no, I wouldn't be too worried just yet. I think we're still getting a good source of scores here and there, especially at the start of the league campaign. They were all kind of spread out. Dignan's kind of just exploded as the league has kind of progressed in a way. So, and as has Oisin Kelly and all those kind of players. And Páirc Keeve, in a way, like Oisin Kelly's a player that loves playing in Croke Park. He got 7 points in the Crystal Ring final a couple of years ago from play. Got 5 against Dublin in Croke Park. Recently, he got 3 points against Dublin in a league match in 2018 in Croke Park. So, Páirc Keeve could be somewhere that suits him absolutely perfectly. But no, I wouldn't be too worried about it so far. I think if it gets to the championship and we're kind of still putting up those kind of numbers, then there will be maybe cause for concern. But for the moment, I wouldn't worry too much about it, just because I think we have a lot of good players out the field whose main aim probably isn't to score, but rather to feed players.
Looking at Waterford scores next as well, or their results first of all. They lost to Carlow in the first game shockingly, 221 to 119. Then they got back up on the horse and beat Laois on a scoreline of 127 to 20 points. Hammered Antrim 223 to 11 points. Then beat Dublin with a brilliant last few minutes performance in Walsh Park that day, 123 to 218. Then ran asunder on Westmeath, 7 goals and 34 points to 24 points, and then obviously beat Offaly in the last game to secure their final place, 22 points to 111. They scored an average of 225 per game overall, 12 goals and 148 points, and conceded 5 goals and 105 points. That's an average of 117 per game. Look at their scores, Waterford as well. You have Stephen Bennett at the top there with 1 goal and 37 points. Padraig Fitzgerald with 25 points. Daisy Hutchinson with 112. Kevin Mahoney with 2-8. Jamie Barrett with 13 points. Patrick Kern with 2-6. Patrick Fitzgerald with 1-8. Charlie Treed with 2-5. Sean Walsh there with 3 goals. And then the rest of the list include like Conor Sheehan, Jack Prendergast and Shane Bennett all with 5 points. So more of a spread of scores there from a Waterford point of view, but in a way, would you have expected that for the start of the season in 1B for Waterford, considering the opponents they have been playing compared to, let's say, who they're going to play in Munster the next few weeks?
I was actually about to say that exact same thing, considering the opponents that they have had this year. You probably would expect it. I mean, they put 7-34, 35. I can't remember what it was there already. It was that big against Westmeath. And they put up a big scoreline in Antrim as well. And even 123 against Dublin is a very good scoreline to put up as well. So yeah, no, I'm not overly surprised in a way that the scores were kind of spread out, but especially with the attack that Waterford have as well, you probably would expect it. It's a very, very stacked attack. It absolutely is. And even with the likes of Jamie Barron, who's kind of can operate at midfield and centre forward, he's going to chip in with a couple of scores from time to time as well. So no, I'm not overly surprised in a way. And listen, Waterford, like we've seen it with Ballygunner over the last number of years in the Munster Club Championship, in the All Ireland series, that they have some fabulous forwards. And yeah, no, they have the players that can absolutely hurt you on any given day. The Fitzgeralds, the Bennetts, the Hutchinsons. They're just players that if you have them on your club team, then Jesus, they're brilliant to have in your county team. So yeah, no, I'm not totally surprised that they do have more of a sort of range at the moment of scores in comparison to maybe us. But no, I think Waterford will still maybe have just a bit too much for us this weekend. And I mean, like you said, I mean, it's still actually crazy now that I think that Carlow didn't lose to either finalist this year. That's actually impressive from them. But and fair play to them for that. But no, I think Waterford might just have too much this weekend. Their attack is very, very good, and I think we're still kind of down a couple of players as well, which we could do with. And look, like I said, our biggest concern for me is to, like, at the end of the year, if we've survived in the Leinster Championship but lost the league final, I think we'll take that over winning the league final, and then consolidating ourselves back to the Joe McDonagh next year, I think would just be a disaster, to say the least. No, I still think it'll be a good game, though, a good curtain raiser for the Cork and Tipperary game. And look, there'll be the arguments, especially with saying a lot of us probably would have loved the game to maybe been at Nolan Park, or there's been kind of talks during the week, could they've combined, say, I don't know, the 1B final with the Division 3 final, and maybe the 1A final with the 2A final, etc. So, but I suppose, look, that's a story for another day.
Exactly. And that's the discussion of hurling in a nutshell. But yeah, I think Waterford probably will have enough over Offaly, but Offaly, I think, could cause a shock. We'll have to see over the weekend. And it should be an exciting day in Super Valley Park Kyiv in terms of a double header for the Alliance Hurling League finals. So that's the first weekend of the championship in football anyway, wrapped up. Thanks to you for coming on to the podcast today. Thanks to anybody that watched the video on a live stream. Thanks to all the comments that came in as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff as well, and ring the bell for any notifications on latest podcasts coming up as well. Thanks to Capture Athletics for sponsoring today's show once again today. And until next week, we'll see you then, and take care and enjoy the games of the weekend.